Sounds good. Thank you. We want to, again, give thanks to our IT group for making sure that this proceeding is live streamed and recorded for posterity. We appreciate you doing that. We appreciate Fatima as well for her assistance over there. We welcome you all out to our regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners held today, Tuesday, the 3rd day of February, already 2015. We do have quite a few items on our agenda, and we appreciate you being here with us today. We'll begin with our invocation, which will be offered by the Reverend Charles Petty. We appreciate him being here with us today to offer out our invocation, after which our thought of the day will be offered by Pledge of Allegiance will be offered by our new county surveyor, which is Mr. Devron Anderson, appointed just recently by the recorder surveyor, Mrs. Kiltz. After which our thought of the day will be offered by Commissioner Ebert. Reverend Petty, the floor is yours.
Let us pray. Eternal and everlasting God, we are grateful for this opportunity to come and share and to welcome your presence back into this commission again. We thank you, we love you, we praise you. We pray that since we've invited your presence, that you will lead, you will guide, you direct those who are to make decisions, that there might be decisions that would be beneficial to all. We love you, we praise you, and we do it all in the precious and the marvelous name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody please rise and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So 2 quick thoughts. I'll just read them. Work for a cause, not for applause. Live life to express, not to impress. Don't strive to make your presence noticed, just make your absence felt. I like that. And be strong, but not rude. Be kind, but not weak. Be bold, but not bully. Be humble, but not timid. Be proud, but not arrogant. I think if we use these thoughts in our life, we can make impressions that are positive to this world. So those are my thoughts for today.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate that. Great thoughts. Before I start reading the consent items, I just want to make you aware that, first of all, item number 2 will be stricken. It's basically the same as item number 3. It'll be taken in one motion, in one agenda item. So that's for your reference, Commissioners, as we move forward. And then after we're done with our business on the agenda before we adjourn, I would like to request that that I accept a motion for a closed meeting to discuss imminent and pending litigation. So I just want to throw that out there before we start, so that everybody understands we've got some lengthy issues to discuss in closed meetings. So that's going to be a majority of our time here today. So with that, we'll move to our consent items. Consent item number 1 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $120,652.75. Request for approval of warrants number 317759 through 318048 in the amount of $1,714,748.54. Request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on January 27th of 2015. Request from the Weber County Department of Homeland Security, Emergency Management, for approval to surplus a 1992 Isuzu NPR tilt cab diesel box truck. Request for approval of new beer licenses. Request for approval of cancellation of the next of the regular commission meeting of the Weber County Commission scheduled for February 10th, 2015, which would mean that the next meeting would be held the next week on February 17th of 2015. And request for approval to amend cooperative agreement project number F 00371210 and S 01083011 state SR 108, SR 37 to SR 39, which is a road reconstruction and widening project. Commissioners, those are the consent items. Any comments or action on those consent items?
Well, I just had a quick comment. I sat and watched commission meetings for probably about 15 to 17 months, pretty regularly before I took office. And as we went through the consent items, I saw the warrants and the purchase orders, and of course you always wonder where that money's going. These consent items for warrants and purchase orders weren't always put on the agenda, and I think they were put on several years ago for some transparency. But there's always somewhat of a wonder, so I thought it'd be nice that maybe we just touch on a couple big things so that you had a better understanding where maybe some of this money was going. So if you wouldn't mind, Commissioner.
Absolutely. Great. Go ahead.
Under our warrants, probably the single largest expenditure was for our library construction. It was well over half, and that's part of our ongoing capital improvements projects for the library, and that was well over $1 million. And then we also have our Weber Housing Authority that has assistance to those who are in need of housing for approximately $75,000. So those were the two of the largest expenditures, which are, of course, needed expenditures, as I believe they all are. And then under our POs, we had an expenditure for the health department for purchasing of a vehicle. So when we look at those large numbers, I know sometimes they're a little intimidating. We wonder about them. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of the larger ones so you had an idea why those numbers sometimes are as large as they are.
Well, and there are an awful lot of individual checks that are written in the county in a given week, and we have a process in which each of those are evaluated and processed and sent through. Much of that under the direction of the clerk auditor's office. But it is important that each of those expenditures are approved in one of our public meetings, and that's why those are sent to us early, within usually on Friday before the commission meeting, so that we have all week to as commissioners to study those and make sure that there's nothing on those purchase orders or anything like that that we have any concern about. And I think it's good for Commissioner Ebert to bring up the fact that if that is the case and we have concerns or problems with any of those, that we take action to fix those. Sometimes that can be done by picking up the phone and calling over the clerk auditor's office and asking a question or making a comment there, and sometimes it can happen here. So it is our practice and our responsibility to we take those as a whole in this particular case at our commission meeting, but I think it's good for us to remember that they are screened individually by the commissioners, and that it's an important part of this process. Ricky, do you have anything else that you'd like to add on that process, just since we're talking about it and it's a discussion point right now?
I think it's a good process. By the time it reaches the commission's desk, it's gone through 3 sets of eyes. Both the data entry side, and then as they proof the report, they go through those as well, and then I look at it. And so we try to scrub it and make it as clean and clear as possible. And also, just for the sake of disclosure, what we do is when we provide the information to the commissioners, they have it in a spreadsheet format that they can drill down and look at details of each expenditure or each purchase order. So it's not just a one line per department or anything like that. They have the ability to drill down. So it's a good process, and it certainly complies with law, but I think it's extra helpful to have multiple eyes on it from multiple departments. It's good.
So we have administrative eyes, and then I think it's always good as well that it goes through the set of eyes of the elected auditor, who has that accountability to the public through that election process, to make sure that that everything is done appropriately and in the right manner. And then, of course, is voted on by 3 more who are accountable to the public as well. So it's a good process. We appreciate the good work that the Clerk Auditor's Office does in preparing this information for us. And that nonetheless, Commissioner Evers, as you point out, that does not at all minimize our responsibility as well. So appreciate you bringing up that item.
And would probably make it a common practice, if it's okay, for larger expenditures, just to let the
Point some of those out.
citizens know that, that's where this money is going, so.
Okay, excellent. Okay, motion on the consent items then, if you're so inclined.
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent items as read.
Second.
Okay, motion and second then to adopt and approve the consent items as read. Is there discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Okay, to our action items. Item number 1 is a presentation of the Victims of Crime Act grant statistics for the 2014 and 2015 grant year. And Jamie Pitt, who is one of our victims advocates, is here to present that report. And Jamie, why don't you introduce to us our other advocate that I have not had the chance to meet yet. You're fairly new. Come on up and have her come up and just say hi and introduce her as well. This is a report that we receive yearly, and so we appreciate you being here this year to report to us as well.
Thank you.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I interned with the Attorney's Office for the past year, and I just got hired on in January as the new Victim Witness Coordinator. Nice to meet you.
Congratulations. Welcome to the county.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. All right. Good morning. My name is Jamie Pitt. I'm one of the 3 Victim Witness Coordinators that we have currently in our office. And I'm here to just report on our VOCA grant that we currently are working under. Just a brief description of what our job actually entails. We evaluate all the cases that come to the attorney's office and identify the crime victims that need to be notified. We notify crime victims of their rights and upcoming court appearances in their case. We notify and refer victims to agencies who can provide assistance to them based on individual needs. We schedule appointments with the prosecuting attorney and assist in victim preparation and trial testimony. We attend to victims' needs while they're waiting in court to testify and provide support to the victims throughout the entire process. We coordinate with the victims regarding restitution and payments. We keep statistical records for grant reports and prepares grant applications. We also answer telephone calls and respond to technical and procedural questions. We operate a motor vehicle in a safe manner and in compliance with all Utah laws and regulations, and we perform related duties as required. The crime categories that we actually keep statistics on are as follows: child physical and sexual abuse, domestic violence, adult sexual assault, driving under the influence of alcohol, driving while intoxicated, and DUI with deaths, survivors of homicide victims, such as family of the homicide victims, assaults, adults molested as children, elder abuse, robbery and burglary, and then other, which is attempted murder and kidnapping. We also do stalking and other property crimes such as forgeries and identity fraud. We have helped over the last 6 months, we've helped 1,302 victims. Last year, about the same time, I did it in roughly a 6-month average, we helped 985 victims. We increased over the last year by 317 victims. In these crime categories over the last 6 months, our numbers are as follows. Domestic violence, we had 57. Victims of child sex abuse, there were 27. Victims of burglaries and robberies, 68. Survivors of homicide, there were 9. Last year, around the same time, we had 61 victims of domestic violence, 61 victims of child sex abuse, 107 of burglaries and robberies, and then we also had 2 homicides last year, just to name a few. Our program accomplishments that we have done are we are on a committee that helps raise funds for the YCC. We do the Footsteps to Light and our annual law enforcement training. The coalition is working hard to raise funds for both the YCC and domestic violence awareness. We put these towards helping the victims of domestic violence. Recently, one of our murder cases, Jeremy Valdez, who committed 2 murders in 2009, has recently pled guilty. This is quite an accomplishment for our office because we've been working on it for the past 5 years. Our whole office has been working hard, and he will be sentenced later in March. On October 12th, one of our other cases is Loretta Jensen. She was charged with 2 counts of DUI, third-degree felony, 2 counts of DUI, a Class A misdemeanor, and 1 count of driving the wrong way on a one-way street. She entered pleas to all of the offenses as charged except 1 that we dismissed. Ms. Jensen was traveling the wrong way on 21st Street right below Wall. She was highly intoxicated, a .30. She hit head-on into another vehicle, which was carrying a mother, her daughter, and son, and her daughter's friend. The 2 young girls were transported to Primary Children's Hospital, in which the defendant was found in her vehicle to have an open bottle of vodka. The 2 girls have recently been released from the hospital, but they will both have lifelong difficulties as a result of the accident, and she was also sentenced recently to 0 to 5 years in the Utah State Prison on 2 counts, and those are to run consecutive. Are there any questions?
Commissioner Bell, any questions?
I appreciate what you do coming, as I'm sure Commissioner Ebert, from the law enforcement community at such a valuable assistance that you do, and we appreciate what you do, and thank you.
Thank you.
Jamie, I didn't know much about what you did down there in the witness advocacy group, and I think it's safe to say that most people don't. But I, as you know, stole my assistant from your office
Yes.
a few years ago, and she didn't want to leave very bad because she knew the value of what was going on down there, and I could tell that she had a passion for it and a love for it, mostly because she loves people and wanted to make sure she could do anything she could to help them. And since then, I've had the opportunity to get educated a little bit by her as to the importance of what you all do, and I've come to realize the critical nature of that. I mean, there's nothing worse than going through a traumatic situation like that without someone to be there with you through that process. And so I have been thoroughly impressed as I have watched and seen the efforts that you all make to help these individuals who need our help the most. And it takes a special and kind and loving personality to make that really effective for these individuals. And I just want to tell you thank you, and you have our full support with this grant process, as well as anything else that you need. We are convinced and know of the value of what you do, and we just want to, I think, from the entire commission, tell you thank you very much for your effort.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Appreciate that. I don't think we need action on that item. It's just a presentation, so we appreciate that, and we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is item number 3, the request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners appointing 2 representatives to serve on all taxing entity committees for all community development, renewal, economic development, and education, housing development project areas within an incorporated or unincorporated area of Weber County. Douglas.
Commissioners, good morning.
Good to see you this morning.
Thank you for your time. Likewise. So you have in front of you a resolution appointing 2 employees from Weber County to represent the county, effectively the county commission, on the all taxing entity committees throughout the county. Section 17C of the Utah Code, effectively the Community Development Renewal Agencies Act, requires the appointments. Previously, Dan Olson, our county comptroller, and myself were the 2 appointed representatives. Effectively, this resolution will replace Dan Olson, and I will continue to serve on the taxing entity committees as well. And Dan's replacement will be Joe Olson with the County Assessor's Office, and Scott Park, our current County Comptroller, will serve as the alternate.
So is there a Olson requirement there?
Yes, it's in the resolution. And Mr. Chair, if I may, just two minor clerical corrections. In the title of the resolution, fourth line down, where it starts out with renewal, comma, economic development, that should say urban renewal, comma, economic development and education, so on and so forth. And then in the second whereas statement, we need to change the code section to 17C-1-402 instead of 403.
We'll leave that to Fatima and Chris to make sure those.
Thanks, I'll
appropriate
make
changes
sure
are
that
made.
gets done. And I beg your patience that I didn't review that prior to a few minutes ago.
Well, I'm glad you know the difference between 402 and 403.
I'm not sure I do.
Apparently. Appreciate that.
Thanks. I'm not sure that I'm happy I know the difference. That's what I mean, sir.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
You do know the difference.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, resolution number.
17.
Commissioners, if you're okay with those recommendations of the Olson replacement.
I'm very comfortable. I talked to Mr. Larson about Joe Olson, who has been serving as the alternate, so he has some institutional knowledge. And then we have Mr. Park as our comptroller, who will attend most, if not all, of the meetings to serve as an alternate, but also to, have some interest as far as the financial aspects of it. So unless we have other comments.
I'm ready for a motion.
So
if
he's
you
got institutional knowledge, or he's been institutionalized? I'm not sure,
He has,
Joe.
he has
Sorry, Joe.
institutional knowledge.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to make sure.
I'd make a motion that we adopt Resolution 17, appointing Joe Olson and Scott Park as the alternate on all taxing entity committees for all community development, renewal, economic development, and education housing development project areas within the unincorporated or unincorporated area of Weber County.
I second that.
Okay, motion and second then to adopt and approve resolution number 17 as read. Is there discussion of that motion? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ebert,
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you,
Douglas.
Commissioners.
Appreciate you bringing that forward. To item number 4, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the Ogden Nordic for grooming of the Nordic trails at North Fork Park. Jennifer,
Good morning.
welcome.
Yes, sorry, this contract is a little late as grooming has already started. There was a little bit of coordination effort that took a little bit longer than we had planned. But this is basically the same agreement that we've seen over the last couple of years. We have increased the payment back to the county slightly. And we are also the county is going to help in some of the cost of the porta-johns and the solid waste removal as we do with the park any other time of the year. So other than that, it is just pretty much the standard contract that we've had with Ogden Nordic.
So has our attendance up there been pretty good this winter?
It has been, even though the wet snow is up there is a little bit hard, but they've been having really great attendance. We had the Winter Trails Day there that was attended by, I think, over 350 people was the last count that they had. So
Great.
it was great.
Well, and I've got to say that folks don't realize that Weber County, we have our park up there. It's not sure how many acres is it?
Over 2,400.
Over 2,400. Then we have another park at Causey with 100 and
About, just over 100.
just over 100 acres, and there's camping, and these are phenomenal projects that our county has, or pieces of property. So I strongly urge people to get out and use them. That North Fork Park is beautiful.
Yes, year round.
I'll make a motion.
28.
I'll make a motion to accept contract number 28 between Weber County and Ogden Nordic for grooming.
Second.
Okay, motion and second then to approve and adopt contract number 28 between Weber County and Ogden Nordic. Is there discussion of that motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
I'm going to
Jennifer.
editorialize there now and say to everyone, pray for snow. Not just right there, but all over, snow everywhere. It's a problem right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, item number 5. Request for approval of a maintenance agreement by and between Weber County and Wheeler Machinery for services on 6 front-end loaders and 2 track hoes. Gary, you're the presenter. Good to see you today.
Commissioners, it's good to be here. However, this agreement we signed 2 years ago, we actually consolidated. I used to bring like 16 agreements in the same time period that this agreement covered. So you're lucky that I haven't had to see you for 16 times in the last 2 years
We
on all
are.
of these.
Thank you.
Not really.
But this is the same agreement we have with Wheeler Machinery. It basically, we take pride in keeping up on all of the maintenance on our equipment. It saves, one of these pieces of equipment would cost $250,000 to replace. So it's important that we maintain them, and we've found that Wheeler provides the best service for us to do that, and they're very accommodating. They come in after hours and do all of the service after we close, so that we don't have to have those pieces of equipment offline to service. So this is about a 2% per year increase, so this is 4% higher than it was 2 years ago. But we feel like they provide the best service that we can find for those, and it saves us having a full-time mechanic on staff to do these kinds of services. I just noticed on the agenda that we actually also have 2 contracts here. There's an additional lube service agreement for a Volvo that we wanted to add to that contract. But I noticed on the agenda we only listed 1 contract. I don't know if we need to come back and do that, or we can do both of those together.
We probably need to come back, but I imagine you can just put it on a consent agenda.
Okay.
You want to give us, is there any detail you can give us now? And if we feel comfortable with it, we can put it on a consent agenda next week.
It's
so you don't
this
have to
last page. It's just a separate
Oh, so it's
agreement
in our
because
packet.
it's not on the current agreement. It's a piece of equipment we'd like to add to that. So.
Great. Shelley, will you make sure that that gets on our consent calendar for next week, or for our next commission meeting? Okay, thank you. Then Gary won't have to come back and present it. All right, any other questions, comments for Gary?
So just a quick comment. So when we have our consent items, the landfill is one of those areas that's under that warrant list for ongoing expenses throughout the month or throughout that last period. And we enter into a contract, and then when we expense that, that will show up under the warrants list, which will show up on our consent items.
Right.
And so as we work through this process, it's another step, as Mr. Hatch was talking about, where we review all money that is expensed, whether it's within departments or contractually. So there is a very detailed process of expensing all money and funds through the county.
Good point. Very good to point out, because I think it's absolutely right. They don't just register. It's a contract that has been passed in one way, shape, or form. You mentioned the library earlier, and that was because we had entered into a contract to spend money on building a library. So that's just another example. Appreciate that clarification. All right, motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt contract 29 or approve contract 29, entering into a maintenance agreement by and between Weber County and Wheeler Machinery for service on 6 front-end loaders and 2 track hose.
I second that.
Okay, motion and second then to adopt and approve contract number 29 between Weber County and Wheeler Machinery. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate it, Gary. Item number 6. Linda, if you'll work your way up, I'll read this long introduction. It's a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation to allow Weber County to construct and maintain a 20 feet by 25 feet paved asphalt access road, along with 25 feet of minimal landscaping and irrigation system on U.S. lands acquired for a Roy well. Is that the right word? for a Roy well on
Yes.
behalf of, in the city of Roy, I guess. It just seemed odd the way it was written, but that sounds right. On behalf of Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. So,
Good morning.
Linda, thanks for being here.
That description well summarizes the intent of this agreement to develop the land as part of the construction of the Southwest Branch Library in Roy. There is an abandoned well on the southern portion of that property, and the intent is to leave the wellhead intact, but to landscape around the wellhead as well as provide an access road on the south side of the property. The access road provides a number of expected benefits to the general public, including providing convenient access on the non-public side of the building for an estimated 10 to 15 deliveries each day. It will provide parking access for employees, which will extend the number of public parking stalls available, and it will allow safe entry into the building by library users because with this access road, delivery vehicles will not need to back into oncoming traffic or across areas where people may approach the building by foot.
Well, it's kind of a confusing situation there where we talked about the city of Roy and Weber County and Weber Basin and the Bureau, but just for information, I think it's good to point out that the land that is owned by the Bureau of Reclamation is actually managed by Weber Basin.
That's correct.
Under the Weber Basin project, and of course that's what we're talking about, that land that the well sits on. So Weber County would then construct and maintain this easement along this road.
That's correct.
During the construction and through the construction process, and I guess for a specific amount of time. Is there a
the
length
licenses
on the
for application was made to the Bureau of Reclamation last July, but the concept for the site plan was to proceed with landscaping as detailed in this license agreement, so there is no additional cost associated with it.
Love to hear that. Thank you. I appreciate your attention to detail and your foresight in catching these little things and having them expensed out and prepared for. And I also appreciate that as I talk to you about different things specific to library construction, you're always very amenable to changes, and usually what happens is you've already thought about it and you already say, oh, yeah, we're already doing that. So I appreciate that very much.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
I'll make a motion that we approve contract 30. Wow. By and between Weber County and the Houston Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation to allow Weber County to construct and maintain a 20-foot by 25-foot paved asphalt access road, along with 25 feet of minimal landscaping and irrigation system on U.S. lands acquired for a Roy well on behalf of the Weber Basin Water Conservancy District. Period.
Could you repeat that, please?
No.
I second that.
Were you surprised at number 30? We're working hard.
We are.
Getting a lot done, and we've done about that many resolutions too. So, good work. Motion and a second then to approve and adopt contract number 30 between Weber County and the U.S. Department of the Interior. Is there any discussion to the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Appreciate you bringing
Thanks,
that to
Linda.
us. Okay, item number 7. This is one that we've heard before, and we get to hear it again. Hopefully we can resolve this thing today. This is item number 7, discussion and or action on a request to add an addendum to the 2002 zoning development agreement for Wolf Creek Resort, allowing a transfer of 58 units between the Forest Residential FR3 and the Residential or RE15 zones and other minor changes. And Jim Gentry is our presenter. Jim, welcome this morning.
Thank you. This is an addendum to the Wolf Creek zoning development agreement that was done in 2002. This addendum will allow the transfer of 58 units from the Forest FR3 zone to the RE15. There'd be no increase in density in Wolf Creek. It's just allowing the transfer. This addendum will also clarify a few other things, such as there's a parcel that was in the 2002 agreement labeled FRC-1 that no longer exists in our land use code. So it's been replaced with the FR1. It still allows one dwelling unit per the 9 acres. After the zoning development agreement was done in 2002, there was a rezone that to rezone some property to the CVR, which allows residential units. So 61 because of the CVR rezone that was done. And so this has gone to the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval of the addendum, and their next step would be to prepare a new master plan for Wolf Creek. So this comes with a unanimous recommendation from the Ogden Valley Planning Commission.
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, as we heard this item before, and I can't remember how long ago, a couple of months ago or so, we did, at that time, had the recommendation from the Planning Commission, which was that it not be approved. I think it was somewhat split, if I remember correctly, not necessarily unanimous, but that caused us some concern, and what you're saying is since then, this has been back to the Planning Commission, has received unanimous approval.
That's correct. We looked at redid the number analysis, took it back to the Planning Commission, and basically the major thing is just a transfer of the 58 units from the FR3 to the RE15, and they unanimously agreed to that.
Okay, and I only bring that up at this point because I think it's important. That was clearly one of my major concerns at the time. We rely so heavily upon the Planning Commission for input because this is kind of their ball of wax, right? This is the kind of stuff that they deal with day in and day out. We have ultimate responsibility, but and so there are times when we have to differ in opinion with the Planning Commission, either on their interpretation or on a principle. But the reality is it does mean an awful lot to us, and I want to point that out as often as I can because I know that it means a lot to them to know that we listen to what they have to say and that we allow them to do their work, at least to the extent that we can. And so I am glad and grateful that this has now gone back and received a stamp of approval. That means an awful lot to me as I consider it. So I hope that you'll pass that on as well to the planning commissioners in the Upper Valley. Commissioner Bell?
So I don't know how long we've been doing this process for, probably well over a year on our agenda, and we look forward to you building some houses up there and bringing some more residents, and we like that.
Is there any from the petitioner group that would like to, anybody specifically to this item that would like to make a comment on the item today? You're welcome to come up if you'd like.
Sure, Eric Householder with the Householder Group. Just briefly, obviously you guys are familiar with what we've been trying to do, and a lot of work has gone into this. It's been about a 2-year process. We had our meeting in January 2 years ago when we started getting the ball rolling, and there's been some consolidation with ownership, and the landscape has changed quite a bit. And we look forward to clarifying the entitlements and bringing you a new updated plan, and it's part of the agreement here that will happen within the next year. So unless you have any other questions for me specifically, we're excited to move forward.
Thank you, Eric. I don't have any questions. Do you, commissioners?
Nope.
What kind of, do we have a number going with this of any kind?
31.
Just a contract? Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't
okay,
see, I was looking here right, and I
So,
apologize.
John Lewis, Wolf Creek Resort. I just also wanted to get up and point out that I think ultimately it was a really good process, and what it kind of and the members and all this, the stakeholders changed along the way. But one thing I wanted to emphasize that I thought was important and that we followed and was kind of at your direction as well was going back to our community and getting their input and making them part of this process. And I think if anything in the whole process that broke down, it was that. And, that's not us. And we certainly, appreciate everybody's input in our community. And I think it's a better product that we come out with if we listen to what the customer wants and what the last customer wanted. And going forward, I think you're going to see a lot of that from Wolf Creek, you know, bringing everybody into the picture, community centers, trails, that kind of stuff. That's just, I want you to know that's where we're coming from. So I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Come on up. I see the Fulmers back there, and they've
You know,
been very involved.
And when
in
the
this.
Fulmers are here, they are our unpaid staff in the valley because they work, I've got to just tell you, they work more hours than lots and lots of people do taking care of the valley and valley issues. And I so appreciate them, and they are such wonderful people. And I think our planning staff would agree with me totally on that. And so we love it when the unpaid employees come in to talk.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. My name is Jan Fulmer, and I live in Eden, Utah. And my husband and I are here today only representing what has come from 14 communities on the future development of Wolf Creek. And please don't anybody panic, all right? I mean, we're not throwing a wrench in the wheel here at all. But there's just one loose end we would like to have tied. And I don't believe there was any response to the question. The addendum to the Wolf Creek 2002 Wolf Creek Development Agreement was presented, I believe, by 5 entities. Do we need to have those 5 entities' signatures on this for agreement? We don't want to come back and revisit this because something hasn't been signed correctly. And we had asked, okay, we've got a plan here. We will have an updated total development plan for Wolf Creek within a year. It can't be done overnight. We're going to have a checkpoint in 6 months. So all of the constituents that wanted this addendum, do they have to agree to this, or can we move forward?
Appreciate that question, and we will turn to our staff, to our paid staff, Sean or Jim, to answer that.
And our attorney's thinking over there. You've got him thinking.
Right, and you may want to refer to Mr. Allred in just a minute. Commissioners, this addendum is not with all of the owners of Wolf Creek. It leaves out 2 entities. One of those is Summit Mountain Holding Group, and the other, I believe, is Elkhorn LLC. Summit Mountain Holding Group owns approximately 40 acres of property zoned FV3, which has about 13 density units associated with it, and Elkhorn LLC owns approximately 5 density units in the RE15 zone. But they are not party to this addendum. They're not mentioned. Their property is not affected by this. And this property does not supersede the other provisions of the 2002 agreement that specifically refer to them. So they still have that agreement in place. And moving forward, all of these entities will have to work together on this updated master plan, regardless of whether they're party to this addendum. Mr. Allred, do you have any further comment?
No, I was just going to mention that's exactly what we've talked about on a number of occasions in the past, and that's the reason why it's been our opinion that you don't have to necessarily have those other 2 entities signing on to this agreement, because as I see it, their rights aren't affected by what we're doing here today. They still have their same development rights that they had previously.
Well, I know there was heavy discussion when we dealt with this a couple of months ago, and we still, I think at that point, felt like we had the authority. We wanted that planning commission approval, but my guess is, from everything I've understood, that we do have the authority to move forward, and unless somebody tells me different, that's going to be my takeaway from this, Chris.
Yeah, that's been our opinion for quite some time now. It certainly may be that some may disagree, but that's the opinion we've come to.
Well, and I think it'd
John,
be great.
come on up here if you got another question.
Jan.
Jan.
It'd be
Come on
nice.
up here.
Be nice to have unanimous buy-in. I think we're pretty close, though. But
Okay,
you know.
no, we didn't want to throw a wrench in the wheel here, but we just don't want to have to revisit this because there wasn't an I dotted or a T crossed, okay? But also, when there is a 6-month review, as they start to develop the updated master plan for Wolf Creek, we would like to be able to attend so that we can at least give feedback to the 14 communities and hopefully tell them this is really going well, if possible.
Absolutely, and so Sean, you'll make sure she knows when the review is going to be.
Yes.
But this has been that has been the legal question. To be honest with you, it's been dragging along for a long time, and so we've got the different opinions, and our legal staff is which Chris just said, and that's what we were waiting to get that covered and everything together on that, and so. We feel like we're in a right spot to move forward with this. So that's my opinion on it.
Go ahead, sir. State
Thanks,
your name
Jan.
for the record.
Oh.
Thank you. Gary Fulmer, the other half, Eden. I'd just like to go on record that it's very important that we understand that this transfer of development units is a transfer. It's not an increase in density in this development at all. That the zoning that they would be moving the development rights, but it's circumvented by the development agreement. So overall, it looks like this is probably a good thing to do. It opens up additional development, which I would normally say I wouldn't like, but it will possibly increase. If we get these many new homes in that area, we're going to increase the tax base at no really effect on the density. So I would stand in support of this, and it sounds like the legal issues have at least reached some conclusion, which is a very important thing. So I'd stand in support of moving these units. Thank you.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, absolutely.
It'll be the last thing. So just for the general public to know on this. So what happened was they went into a bankruptcy up there. The federal bankruptcy judge went in and divided this big chunk of property up and gave it to 3 different owners. Well, he didn't take the housing where the houses were designated to be built. They were designated to be built on this piece of property. Didn't say where they were supposed to go. So all we've done is, it seems like a simple task. When they first came in and talked to me, I thought, well, that's easy. You just throw the houses out there. Well, it's a little more to it than that, than just to throw the houses where you're going to put them. So that's kind of what put us where we are on that, and it's been a lot of work. So I'm ready to make a motion if you other 2 commissioners are ready.
Let me just make a statement before you do that. That I do think, it's been a good process. It's a long one. I do hope that I think we're ready to move forward. I'm ready to move forward. I hope that's the motion you're going to make. But reality is, it comes to a basic belief that I have, and I've always tried to make this clear from this podium whenever I've had the chance. I mean, the reality is, I think a lot of us would love things to stay the same, to look pretty and have the beautiful landscape that we have, and not have one more structure on it at times. But the reality is, we have kids, we have families, and very importantly as well, is that basic principle of private property rights and ownership. And we have to balance that as a community. We look to our planning commission for guidance and direction, and then we make decisions of how we manage the growth that is important and necessary in our community. And so that's why we spend a tremendous amount of time and resource in looking at our assets as a community and trying to put a plan together as how we want those assets to look, how we want our communities to look. And sometimes then when we have individuals who want to take that private property right and do something with it, sometimes it has to fit what we've molded in a master plan and in a general plan. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't, which generally means that there's somebody frustrated and somebody happy. And so, it does cause some angst from time to time as we see this growth around us, but it's important that we remember those basic principles. And as we go forward, we can't look back and say, this was the rule, but we like you or we don't like you, and so you can or can't do this. We have to play by the same set of rules. As we go forward, if we see things that we don't like, we can change the rules going forward, but we can't change the rules going back and looking we have to treat everyone equitably under the law. And so sometimes we just have some of these tough things to work through, but I think we're working hard, as you know, to update and revisit the master plan up in the Ogden Valley. Sean Wilkinson and his department have done a wonderful job of bringing that process together. My hope and goal, as we've mentioned before with the Fulmers, is that all who have an interest will get involved and make their opinions known. We know that they will because they've been a part of the process from the beginning, and we appreciate that so much. But we hope that everyone will get involved in a positive, forward-thinking way, thinking about how we can make our community a better place to live in the future. And if we do that, I think we'll see positive results from it. So I applaud the work that's gone on in this. Even though it's painful at times, I think it's exactly what we need and what we ought to expect out of this public process. And I appreciate both our staff, but the public as well, and the folks who have come to the table to push this forward. So hopefully, I know there will be more pain in the future, but hopefully not quite as much on this particular issue. So, all right, Commissioner Bell, I think you wanted to make a motion.
I'll make a motion that this contract?
31.
That we accept contract number 31 for an addendum to the 2002 zoning development agreement for Wolf Creek Resort, allowing a transfer of 58 units between the Forest Residential FR3 and the Residential ER15 zones, and some other minor changes.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second then to approve and adopt contract number 31 as stated, as read. Is there discussion to the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations. I know it's been a long
So
time.
let it be written.
It.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I didn't
All right.
say the last comment. Reverend, I didn't say the last comment.
All right. Next is our public comment. If you would like to make any public public comment is next on our agenda. Commissioner Bell reminds me that we're pushed on time for our closed session, but we do want to take public comment if there are any. If you would like to make comment, please come to the microphone, state your name for the record, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. We do have a timer this time. So come on up, and when the 3 minutes is up, we're going to ask you to sit.
I'm an attorney, but I'll be brief. That's a contradiction in terms. Hi, my name is Joe Buchanan, and I live up at Wolf Creek Resort, and I'm a partner in Wolf Creek. But I'm not here to comment on that. 3 years ago, I was a victim of a crime, and Commissioner Gibson, I think I'm primarily focusing my comments on you. A teenager broke into my residence, vandalized it, and I was a victim of a property crime. It was an out-of-state teenager, and it would have been difficult to maintain jurisdiction. But what I'm here for you to tell you is that your victims unit did a superb job. Good. They managed that situation. It was a difficult situation, and they did a wonderful job, and I want to commend them. But I want to give you a qualifier on that, and that's who I am and why my commendation is worth a little bit more than the average. In my prior life, I retired last year, but I was a federal prosecutor in the Southern District of Florida for 10 years. Subsequently, I really didn't do any criminal defense work. That wasn't my cup of tea, but I represented victims. The federal system is very similar on paper, but let me tell you, your system works 10 times better, at least. And that I would like to add as a sort of a highly qualified commendation to the unit if they're here today. They're still here today.
Sure,
so,
Paige will make sure.
and I want to thank you, because you said you weren't that familiar with it. I want to make sure you understood they're doing a heck of a job. So thank you for the time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And
I got time left.
Doesn't that reside in your office?
It absolutely does. We're very proud of it.
For our county attorney, who is actually here today, that resides in his office, and he directly manages them, and they do a fabulous job. You're right.
Will you make sure they hear that compliment as well?
Thank you.
That's great to hear, because believe it or not, it's kind of nice every now and then. Usually when people take that microphone, they're not here to compliment us. So We do appreciate that from time to time because we do have wonderful, wonderful staff in so many areas, and this is one that's exemplary. We're very proud of them, so thank you. All right, Douglas, come on up.
Good morning, Commissioners. Douglas Hanson from West Weber, so we meet again. Today I want to talk to you about how I can help you save some money. And I understand you expressed concerns about trying to save money, so I want to help you do that. If you turn to that handout I gave, a map, this concerns saving money for the county and the taxpayers on this Little Weber cutoff project. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again here, I've got a couple of options that are listed there. Option A is to terminate the current concrete canal at that spot along 5500 West. That would save about a half mile of concrete canal, ditches, roads, crossings, and everything else, and that would end up quite a few millions of dollars to save that going through there. And it also save damage and destruction to our property and be a lot better for us. The other alternative is to continue that concrete canal to B. At that point, the topography, the geology of that ground slopes down, drops down about 5 to 6 feet. That will expose that concrete canal, the walls 6 to 7 feet high above that landscape. It really becomes an obnoxious eyesore, in my opinion. But to save the money by not doing that whole thing through our property, we would offer up that western portion that's outlined in green, saying that that could be utilized as a catch basin for the water to go there. Take a little bit, if you stop at A, to clean the rest of that out so that water will flow. And I still calculate that that will handle the flood water as it did in 2011. And then in that catch basin, that's about 45 to 50 acres, and that'll hold about 35, 40 acre feet of water. And that would not be a problem because with the new culvert on the west side of that, that water should flow through there quite fast and wouldn't back up like it did before. So I would ask your consideration to look at those alternatives and try to save money. I'm offering that as a proposal to do one, either A or B. That way we could maintain the natural environment of that area. It's an open area. It has some value there. I would like to maintain that, and remember that this canal is going to be used one time in 30 years. Statistically, that's all. And then the 29 years, it's going to sit there useless as an expensive structure there that's going to be obnoxious, and it'll just interrupt our whole farming operation. So I'd ask for your consideration to review that to help save money and retain the natural setting for that pasture land and farm ground of ours. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, one of the challenges that we have with this public comment period is that because it's not on the agenda, we can't take action or frankly even discuss it. But I think after the 3 or 4 times now of the public comment addressing this issue, I just need to make a brief statement, and that is simply that we do appreciate hearing your concerns. I need to remind the public, though, that we have heard these concerns many, many times in private settings as well as in public meetings. There has been extensive study done on this project and all of the different prongs and pieces of it and options. It's a comprehensive plan that is comprehensive in nature, that one piece, I'm convinced again, one section or one piece of the plan is not successful without the other pieces. We have proceeded and gone forward with most of the plan as it has been outlined in the plan that has been studied and thoroughly vetted, both for financial data and for engineering data. All that is documented throughout the process, and we still continue to hear information that's presented to us sometimes as though it's not been heard, as though it's new information. And as I listened to the recording from last week and then went to our engineer and asked for for backup on that, I found that, again, I couldn't find anything that was brought up that was not part of the original discussion, that has not been discussed and vetted as we moved forward. And so I continue to be convinced that this is critical, a critical piece of infrastructure for our community as we move forward. And with all due respect, and frankly, Mr. Hanson, I remember visiting specifically with a few members of your family during this crisis that was a real crisis for us, as you know, and for your family as well. And one of them looking me straight in the eye and saying, why don't we fix this so we don't have to deal with it again the next time? And I know that this is hard, and I do commit to you again that we will do everything in our possibility, in our power, to make it less impactful in any way that we can. But with the data that we have and the data that has been presented, it's important that we move forward with this as outlined, and hope that we'll be able to have at least some peace and comfort as we do that we're doing all that we can, and that the community is being well served through this project. It has been going on literally for 4 years, and it's finally to a point of getting this last piece done, and we need to move forward and get it done. So with that, Commissioners, I will move to our final item, the item to assign the Pledge of Allegiance and Thought of the Day for Tuesday, February 17th, 2015 at 10 a.m. Thought of the Day would be Commissioner Bell. Pledge of Allegiance. Let's have Doug. Are you planning on being here next week? If you are, or in 2 weeks, if you are, would you offer the Pledge of lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? And if you can't make it, if something changes and you aren't going to be here, Doug, then just let us know, and we can easily make an assignment from the bench at that time. So we'll assign that to Doug Hanson. We have, let's see, is that it? Yeah, that's it. So now we need to have that motion that I requested at the beginning of the meeting. If you're so inclined, we need to go into closed session. Commissioners, can we do that?
I'll make a motion that we close our public meeting and enter into a closed meeting with the purpose of discussing imminent pending litigation.
I second that.
Okay, motion and second that we enter into closed meeting. Is there discussion? Seeing none, is that a roll call, Fatima?
Yes, it is. Commissioner Bell? Aye. Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. Motion passes. We, as per our practice, we'll be back to adjourn the meeting after our closed meeting. So, thank you. We're adjourned.